before we get to Tesla, I'm going to talk about Ford, which is actually kind of about Tesla. I'll explain. Saw this today. Ford takes a $19.5 billion charge to write down EV investments, aka Ford has obliterated nearly $20 billion trying to compete with Tesla. Sam Gouras from Mark Invest commentary, throwback to around 7 years ago when this was one of the main talking points. Quote, when the big automakers choose to make electric vehicles, they will crush Tesla. You know, the competition is coming. And of course, my response to the competition is coming is yes, the competition is coming embarrassingly fast and all over themselves, not for Tesla, bitches. And here we are. Who could have seen this coming? It turns out trying to do what Tesla did, which they made look relatively easy and it nearly killed them along the way, successfully scaling a profitable EV business, is absolutely incredibly challenging. And that was before Tesla existed. Imagine having to compete with Tesla and do the near impossible thing that Tesla did while having to compete with Tesla, who's already reached scale, driven prices down, and have extremely compelling vehicles. You're fucked. Why even bother? So this is what it looks like when the competition comes and then apologizes and says, I'm sorry, that doesn't usually happen. More commentary from Sawyer. Ford has announced it expects to take a massive $19.5 billion write-down related to its EV investments. The sum is among the largest impairments ever taken by a company. Ouch. Now, remember, as I've said many times, Tesla does not exist in a vacuum. This is what I mean. If you're trying to compete with Tesla, already dominating, already with the world's best-selling vehicle of any kind, the only company making any money selling high-volume electric vehicles to consumers, you really do have your work cut out for you. Tesla dictates pricing in the EV industry. If you can't match Tesla with an equally compelling vehicle for a comparable price, and by the way, no one can, especially on the price point. I mean, they can price them around that same mark, but lose tens of thousands of dollars doing so. You don't have a sustainable business and you're cooked. Ford has fucked around and now officially found out. But wait, there's more. Ford, which has lost $13 billion on its EV business since 2023. Yikes. I thought that was going to be since they began trying. Wow. Just a quick detour to remind you guys, via AJ on X, this was free cash flow history of pure electric vehicle makers. Now, it also includes a bunch of companies that have since gone bankrupt. And just want to point something out. Now, this is not perfect apples to apples, but it's pretty damn fucking close. Tesla, here in blue, cumulative lifetime quote-unquote losses on their entire electric vehicle business before going extremely positive. Call it about $10.5, maybe $11 billion. Lifetime, I add. Lifetime over close to 9 years before massively reversing. Meanwhile, Ford in the last not even 2 years piled on $13 billion in lost cash on its EV business. Ouch. It continues. Ford said that they will bolster its lineup of gas-powered vehicles while shifting to hybrid and so-called extended range EVs that include onboard gasoline engines. In other words, they've realised they're fucked. They can't make compelling electric vehicles. They've given up. Now they're going to try and milk short-term profits for the next few years, producing ICE vehicles, tricking dumbass consumers into thinking an ICE vehicle with little batteries, good for the environment. Therefore, hybrids are the future. Milk some profits, then go out of business. I mean, hey, they don't really have much choice, so what are you going to do? And now, from the leader of the company, quote, instead of ploughing billions into the future, knowing these large EVs will never make money. Okay, I just want to correct that. Knowing that we will never be able to make money making EVs and selling them on the same planet as Tesla. He continues, we are pivoting. We now know enough about the US market where we have a lot more certainty in this second inning. Oh, shit. I'm not done. For those with very short memories, here is that very guy in the recent past, Jim Farley, Ford CEO, who had this to say.
We're really on a mission at Ford to lead an electric and digital revolution for many, not few. And I have to say, the shining light for us at Ford is this beautiful Lightning made right down the road in Dearborn, right here in the state of Michigan, already the leader of all EV pickup trucks in our industry in the United States. Take that, Elon Musk.
Well, that aged well. Now, I have a feeling that Jim may have sort of spontaneously said that and probably instantly regretted it. I mean, poke the bear, never going to end well. I said as much at the time, but fuck, dude. Talk about a pivot. Yeah, take that, Elon Musk. And now look who it is. Dan Ives appearing on CNBC. Quote on screen now, haven't watched this yet. Monster year ahead for Tesla. Now, just to clear the air regarding Dan Ives, he and I have a gentleman's agreement. I will never bring up his $315 per share price target for Tesla stock from April this year And he never brings up my past as a male stripper. Oh, shit. Hang on. I just realized by saying that I kind of brought it up. Oops. Sorry, Dan. So let's see what Dan has to say. Who, keep in mind, apart from that one extremely embarrassing detour that I've agreed not to talk about. Oh, wait, I'm not meant to. I should stop bringing it up. Apart from that, Dan often says a lot of things about Tesla that I agree with. So maybe my editor should delete that. I don't want to get in trouble.
There's also a chance, he says, that it could hit a $3 trillion market cap by the end of that year. And for more, let's bring him in. He's here on set with me. Dan Ives is Wedbush Global Head of Technology Research. Welcome.
Great to be here.
You could have picked an easier one, maybe NVIDIA. Like, why Tesla to you? Is it still so clear? For all the ups and downs, for the auto industry, for all of its ambitions, everything they want to do is always delayed. Granted, the market cap, is still phenomenal. Why do you feel so strongly that 2026 will be a great year?
I think it's about autonomous. I mean, when it comes to physical AI, I think there's nothing better, when it comes to physical AI than NVIDIA and Tesla. And I think this is going to be a golden chapter for Tesla. When it comes to robotaxis, when it comes to cybercabs, volume production, true autonomous, and of course you look at robotics in terms of Optimus. I mean, Kelly, that's why I think we're looking at $2 trillion, ultimately probably a $3 trillion market cap by late 2026, early 2027. That's why it continues to be one of our top picks.
So, I mean, $2 trillion is not really going out on a limb, but I do have to give credit to Dan. If Tesla is to reach a $3 trillion market cap roughly a year from now, that would mean the company's value has roughly doubled over a year, which, by the way, if it did happen, I wouldn't be super surprised. It's not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth time that's happened in Tesla's history. But this is the kind of thing to say out loud. It could cause a lot of pushback from some of Dan's Wall Street colleagues. Of course, he doesn't give a fuck. He wants to appear in the media, get the attention, bring in the commissions. The guy's winning. But that's not a particularly conservative estimate. I mean, most investors would probably be relatively pleased if an investment in a company they held roughly doubled in roughly a year. And if the penny does finally drop regarding autonomy among deep-pocketed, big money investors, the kind that if they buy a small allocation of the stock can meaningfully move it, then it is absolutely possible that we could see $3 trillion within roughly a year. If so, the stock would still need to more than double from there for Musk to start approaching the final 2025 CEO Performance Award market capitalization tranche, e.g. goal. And I don't think there'd be too many investors out there that would be unhappy with Tesla stock doubling and then doubling again and then some. So I think it's fair to say you're not going to find too many analysts out there ever suggesting any company has the potential to see its market cap double in a year or so. So credit to Dan for at least putting this out there. Certainly going to get plenty of attention too.
So, you think about a market cap that big, you say, okay, it's a high multiple. I don't know what exactly the earnings look like. What are you anticipating on that front? And how does physical AI kind of feed directly into the earnings power it might have? I
mean, when I look out next 3-4 years, I think earnings power is 4x, 5x. But because it's my view that when you think about not just the FSD piece, but in terms of true autonomous, it's going to change the whole margin profile. It changes the whole growth story. And I think just going forward for Tesla, the focus, it's, okay, deliveries, they matter. Of course they matter. But in terms of the next few years, especially Musk now, wartime CEO, in terms of pay package, as that's already cemented, this is just the start. And they're also going to have an ownership of XAI. Mm-hmm. Look what's happened in SpaceX. I mean, I think we're now talking about this next AI chapter that's happened across the Musk ecosystem.
We had Dan Primack on last week, and he said, I basically asked him, or he said the question to ask is, why is SpaceX going public now? Do you think there's anything related to financial pressure on Tesla or Musk? Or
Fuck me, dude. So I'm laughing because prior to this segment going to air in the last 24 hours, more recent than that, you'd hope the producers of this segment on CNBS, by the way, shout out to the new absolute dog shit downgrade of a logo. The fucking peacock was iconic, dude. Anyway, the old designer in me can't help but comment on this abomination. But Musk publicly commented on an article by a space industry journalist and author, currently reading his second book that I didn't realize he'd even written on SpaceX, by the way. Highly recommended the first, and the second's great as well. And this author, in an article, explicitly shared what he believed was the reasoning behind SpaceX going public, to which Musk said, accurate. Essentially, he's right. So if you read the fucking article, CNBS, you would know the reasons for SpaceX going public. They're laid out in the article, which Elon Musk confirmed is accurate. But then you wouldn't be able to bring up your FUD point. But this is really embarrassing stuff, dude. They either know, but then they can't paint the negative narrative, or they don't know, which means they're inept. Not sure which is worse. For those who don't know, SpaceX going public to raise, give or take, roughly $30 billion because they need a fuck ton of capital to accelerate the launch of a gigantic, let's just call it a Starlink-like space-based layer of AI infrastructure for inference. I know it's a bit nerdy, but we're talking data centers in space. AI in space. They're not fucking around. That's the whole purpose of the IPO.
Anything like that is, or is it a political? Why would 2026 be the year for SpaceX?
I think the time.
Bro, the level of retardation in this loaded question is a political. Huh? I just have to listen to that again. The amount of desperate attempt to infer, imply, just sprinkle a little bit of possible FUD, say it without saying and ask questions. Just listen to this fucking question.
Why is SpaceX going public now? Do you think there's anything related to financial pressure on Tesla or?
Did you hear that? Do you think there's anything related to financial pressure on Tesla? No. On Musk? No. Now, if you're like a regular CNBS, you're like, oh my God, yeah, maybe Elon's margin loans are getting called. Oh, maybe he's fucked. Maybe he's going to have to sell the whole company. This is just so fucking dumb. And this was only the first part of the question.
Musk or anything like that is, or is it a political? Why would 2026?
Now, I have to again try and read the tea leaves. Political, what is that supposed to mean? Is Elon trying to take advantage of being best friends with Trump? Huh? What the fuck are they? I'll stop my rant soon, I promise. But riddle me this. Do you think in the history of CNBS, there's ever been another IPO discussed in which some of the questions, leading questions, implied that the CEO of the company that was going to go public, or the leader of the company, or the founder of the company might only be IPOing the company because they're experiencing personal financial pressure, or another unrelated company they're involved with is in trouble financially, or maybe they're just trying to take advantage of... Oh, Jesus, dude. What is wrong with these people? Oh, wait, I know the answer. Everything.
Be the year for SpaceX.
I think the time's right. I mean, you could argue valuation, right? Does it approach $1 trillion? It's the same reason why does, Anthropic, or, ultimately when you look at OpenAI and others. I mean, we're hitting at a point where it's only year 3 of an 8 to 10 year build out in terms of the AI revolution. And for the first time in 30 years, me and you've talked about this, U.S. is ahead of China when it comes to tech. But SpaceX is in an inflection point. I think it's important that it goes public. It's the right time. And look, we are in, I think, 2 more years in this tech bull market, and we're going to see more and more of these great private companies going public.
Won't SpaceX be, if you'll pardon the term, sexier than Tesla? In other words, right now, if you are a big fan of Elon Musk and everything he's doing in the future as described, this is the only public equity you can own for that story. Now, SpaceX could be the newer, younger thing on the block. What if investors go with that and thus remove some of the halo, right, the community effect around those who hold shares of Tesla and support its valuation just to have a piece of Musk?
Yeah, it's a great point. Look, I actually think it expands. I mean, to some extent, the ecosystem from SpaceX to Tesla and ultimately what's going to be the ownership of XAI. Because the reality is when you think about what's happening here, I mean, we're talking about the next 5, 10, 15 years. Musk at the centerpiece of it. But I think it speaks to when it comes to Tesla, that continues to be the best play, because I think autonomous is worth $1 trillion alone. You think about Optimus in terms of true robotics. And as this all plays out, I think globally, I mean, they can own 70, 80% of the autonomous market, globally over the coming years.
I know you think that full self-driving penetration could be as high as 50%. In other words, half the people who buy a Tesla pay the extra money to have that option, which would be, as you say, a game changer for margins and for the stock. So that's part of what you're talking about, is for those who own Teslas, they use this technology.
Dude, I can't fucking look at the shit they got on screen right now. SpaceX's gain, Tesla's pain. Oh. By the way, just a quick side note. I don't know if Dan will get invited back after this. He just discussed the longer term future, 5, 10, 15 years. You're not allowed to talk about those kind of timelines on CNBS, Dan. More than a few quarters is really pushing your luck. A couple of years, bro, in trouble. Half a decade, nah, out of here. 15 years, never invited back.
The other part is the Cybercab, what's it called?
Yep.
And how would you describe its position in this vis-a-vis Waymo, where Waymo also does quite well? The car's really expensive, regulatory and otherwise. What should we expect on the Cybercab front from Tesla?
Well, first, FSD, you're going to go from penetration 15% to 50%, and I think it could even be higher. So from a margin perspective, that's going to be huge. Look, Waymo is going to be a rounding error relative to what Tesla's going to do. I think not.
Bro, He's right, but he actually said the thing, a rounding error. It sounds familiar. Now, I just like to bring things full circle here. I mean, I completely agree with Dan. I've explained the thesis a trillion times. For the new viewers, just watch a future video or past one. I say the same shit almost every video. Waymo's cooked. Remember the start of this video? Ford, call it $20 billion down the drain in the last 2 years, trying and failing to compete in the same market in which Tesla is dominating. Yep. That's going to play out again when it comes to autonomy. Waymo is Ford. Do you understand?
Just in the US, but I think globally. Look, it speaks to just how expensive those cars are, how they could scale. And I think when you think about autonomous and in terms of the roadmap, I mean, we would expect probably some sort of executive order, going into early next year, where I think it's going to clear in terms of the federal roadmap. I mean, more and more you're going to go away from the states to federal, and that's going to be extremely important for Tesla in terms of where I think they could take Robotaxi.
It's nice to hear Dan Ives saying a lot of things that I've been saying for quite some time. It's also nice to see Tesla stock on screen now at $475 per share, which is a far cry from... Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, shit, wrong tab. Oh, I better get rid of that. I'll get in trouble again. Oops. So, as I was saying, which is a far cry from March and April this year, where the stock was available in the low $200 per share range, with zero meaningful negative or positive information about the company, just continuing to make progress, inevitable things likely to manifest in the future, collapsing from not far off $500 down to not far off $200 didn't, at least to me, make sense at the time. And judging on where we are today, it seems like all this was, rather than the end of the story for Tesla, was an incredible buying opportunity. Stock's doubled and then some since. Want more content? Early access? A bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has been part of my daily health protocol for almost half a decade. It's packed full of vitamins and minerals and helps me fill in nutritional gaps while supporting energy, digestion, and immune function. It also has prebiotics and probiotics to promote gut health. I take my health very seriously, and so should you. Try AG1 today by visiting drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment and enjoy a free welcome kit with vitamin D3 plus K2 and AG1 travel packs. That's drinkag1.com/SMR.